Hey, hello and good morning, good afternoon to everyone joining us from across the regions. Thank you for your participation and what I believe will be an exciting panel discussion. My name is Sadiq Rauter and I'm the moderator for this panel discussion on customer experiences, CX, retail shift. We will be talking all about customer experiences and expectations. I'm very sure this topic is close to many of us. It impacted our everyday lives, and each of us saw the impact it had on our businesses and the customer psyche and behavior. Now, needless to say, retail has been one of the sectors that's been on the forefront of the pandemic, being challenged in multiple ways. We saw how retail was performing during lockdowns. We saw how stores that carried groceries, household items, which were disrupting supply chains, planning cycles. We saw other retail segments such as luxury, apparel, travel, restaurants, everything fall by the wayside, with stores and mall traffic falling to their lowest. Many of us witnessed it personally. Now, while we went through all of this in most of 2020, many of the businesses are staging a very strong comeback and showing strong resilience. Buzzwords like leading with digital, touchless commerce, personalization, offline, online commerce, agile supply chain, these have been defining and setting the new bar on how we are going to be enhancing the customer experience. To break this down and share what the future holds for us and share their experiences, let me introduce this very diverse panel of thought leaders. Firstly, I'd like to introduce Nicole Tretwer, Head of Logistics Services, APAC Swarovski. Nicole is a seasoned digital transformation and business leader, depth of experience in supply chain, logistics, e-commerce. You can imagine how busy Nicole would have been all through 2020, through the pandemic and now. Welcome, Nicole, to this panel conversation. Nicole has spent 3 years in our current role at Swarovski, and prior to that with Schenker in China and a few other markets. Swarovski as a company doesn't need any introduction with their sparkling crystal creations and some amazing, charming jewelry, I should say, across many, many markets. I'm sure we're all a fan of Swarovski in many ways. Next on a panel, I'd like to introduce Venkatesh or Venki Mahadevan. He's CIO, Dubai Investments and GM TechSource. Welcome, Venki, to the panel. Venki joins us from Dubai. Venki is definitely not a new face to the Global CIO Forum. We've all seen him in multiple panels. Venki is a tech evangelist, an angel investor, a mentor to CXOs and startups. And more importantly, what I like about Venki is he's a talk show host and creator of ZenPod. Definitely, you should check this out if you haven't. Venki spent the last 8+ years in Dubai. And I know Venki for more than 25+ years. We go back many, many years. And I can vouch for the depth of experience and the technology adoption he's worked on across a variety of industries, FMCG, CPG, retail, you name it, Venki's been there. Venki, wonderful to have you on this panel.
Thank you, Sadiq.
And the third leader on the panel is Anil Menon. Anil joins us from the beautiful city of Kochi in India. Anil is Head of Information Technology at Lulu Group India Private Limited. Many of you, Lulu's very familiar to every one of you. Lulu is a multinational conglomerate, operates hundreds of hypermarkets and retail chains across Asia, Middle East, Africa, and other regions. Prior to this, Anil spent time with the Tata Group, more as the general manager for IT innovation in Tata Starbucks and head of IT at Trent Hypermarkets, which is again a very deep retail in apparel, luxury, etc. Anil comes with again many years of experience across IT and specifically on retail organizations. Wonderful to have you, Anil, on this panel. Look forward to your insights. Last but not the least is Ashok Raj Vadivelu, who's CEO at Intellizest. Welcome, Ashok. Intellizest is all about reshaping and rewiring your businesses for a resilient digital enterprise today and tomorrow. If I've got that right, Ashok. It's wonderful, the work that you're doing. Ashok, as I know personally, is a dynamic professional, comes with many years of experience, supply chain, information management, business intelligence, and broadly IT consulting. More recently, Ashok has been a mentor to enterprises on the blockchain transformation across many verticals. Ashok, personally, I want to really understand from you at some other time how blockchain and NFT can give me the next $1 million. I'm sure everybody's keen on understanding how that works. Anyway, once again, welcome to the panel. This is going to be a really exciting conversation. And without further ado, let me jump into the topic. And the way we'll go about this is, I would like to really hear your own personal learnings and experiences on how COVID-19 has shaped customer experiences, behavior, their psyche, and what businesses are doing to bounce back and win against competition. So again, a very broad topic, but each one of us have a lot of depth of experience and learning. We'll jump into that. Let me start with Nicole. Love to hear your experience and learnings on this. Over to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Sadiq, and thank you for having me here. It's an IT forum, and I mentioned earlier I'm probably the least IT person you will have, but I think it's good in the sense that I'm the one using the technology, right, without having all the background, so I can tell you more about what somebody like me would expect from technology in general, right? So Swarovski, I mean, we are a brand with 125 years of heritage, right? And we've been working very hard on perfecting our crystals, on perfecting our jewelry. So you can imagine now in the last year, we've been hit very, very hard because the essence of having jewelry and enjoying that jewelry is the experience of going to the store and seeing the items, seeing the necklaces and trying it on, of course, to see how it is, right? So this is a very important part that has been basically ripped out of the consumer experience, at least when we had our lockdowns. And we had to do a very, very, very quick shift. So fortunately, we have, of course, a very loyal consumer base, and we were able to replicate this and shift into the online channel rather quickly, right? But what have we done? So we have to re-engage with our consumer. What does that mean? Is we need to find different media to engage. And one of them is, of course, now, if you look on the Instagram accounts, we are much more out there. We're engaging more. We're bringing the consumer into it. We're having a conversation and instead of just a presentation of our product. And I have two questions towards IT at this stage as a retailer, right? I have the question is, how can IT support me as a business, as a supply chain function to run the business smoothly? And the second question is, how can IT support me in making the experience, in replicating the experience of the consumer in a virtual environment? And I'm talking here about AR, I'm talking about IR, I'm talking about any R that you have out there. How can you help me as IT replicate that in order for me to give my consumer at least the items that they're lacking right now in the stores where we're locked down and have that in an experience in a virtual environment?
Wonderful. And we will get those answers to you, Nicole, because this is exactly what many of the businesses are asking. Let me move on to, and hold on to that thought, Nicole. We'll come back to you with that. Wenki, I'd like to hear your learnings and experiences. Go for it.
Okay, didn't expect to get onto the hot seat so soon, but I will. I will still. So it's unfair that you bring on somebody after a Swarovski person has spoken. So I don't shine like the jewels or the crystals, but yeah, Sadiq, thank you very much for the introduction and lovely to be with everybody here. Customer experience, I genuinely believe, is going to be the centerpiece on the mantle going forward. While a lot of things will not change, such as customers or consumers, all of us, for example, all of us on this panel and beyond believe that customer experience is important. And I was going through one of the studies, Sadiq, a little while ago, and it said about 73 or 75% of us believe that customer experience is very important. And unfortunately, less than 50% of consumers believe that they are getting that from the organizations. And I'm talking about large, organizations based in the US and Europe and all of that. So clearly there is a gap. While all of us believe, I think it's time now for CIOs, for business owners, for the CFOs, CXOs to put their money where their mouth is, or to actually convert consumer service or CX from just being a lip service to actually doing something that happens. So Nicole mentioned something very beautifully, and she really put us on the spot saying, okay, you guys, what can you do for us? I need my supply chain to be efficient. I need you guys to do this for me. And she's business, right? So she's business. She runs a exciting product, a consumer product in any which way you can. She's part of the business, the C-level person that you would want to talk to, and clearly has been impacted by the pandemic that all of us have. So what do we do? So, organizations will need to get to, so Nicole, really to answer your question, CIOs will have to start coming to you, or your CIO will have to come to you and give you what is known as predictive CX. So, and I liked what you said about engaging with your consumers on Insta, on Snapchat, that's where people have in the last 5 years moved. I don't know if you have noticed, moved away from Facebook. Mark will not like me saying this, but they clearly moved away from Facebook to more interactive and very predictive social media channels. So I've seen Swarovski, I've seen some large brands do this, engaging with the consumer over social media. And it's not just sending a mail and expecting a reply. It's actually holding the consumer's hand and say, what can I do better? How can I design things better? So going forward, and I will talk later, but going forward, clearly CX needs to be the centerpiece. We will need to employ, while we need to employ stuff like AI, and I think two major things that will remain is neuroscience is going to be hugely deployed into designing your CX technologies. What's also going to happen, which is where human behavior comes in, and I'm a big believer of that, I think we will have to start deploying anthropology to some extent. So that I think will be really the foundation or the discussion point or the thread running across, and hopefully Nicole will find an answer to some of her questions very soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. Thanks, Venki, for sharing your thoughts on that. Let me move on to Anil. Would you like to go next?
Yeah, thanks, Hardik, and thanks for having me on this panel. I would go with an amalgam of what Nicole spoke about and what Venki spoke about. What we went in the recent times is more from an aspect of culture, right? Customer experience was always a part and have been a part and parcel of every retailer. But how do you define it is something which came up very clearly during this pandemic. Now, when I say that, while we spoke about having the word competition, now the competition has blurred. Now it is more collaboration which comes out. Now, how do you collaborate with this pandemic? Taught us all of that. How do you collaborate with your competitors or so-called competitors, or how do you make that extra mile go? Is something which most of my experiences in this last 1.5 years, 18 months have taught me around. That's one part of it. Second, I would always work with an aspect, and which I will look at as future and also presently, which during this pandemic, which we are going through, is the cultural shift, the mindset shift, which is happening towards IT. Now, as Nicole spoke about, what am I going to get from IT? IT was always speaking it out, but had that business, had the culture embrace that, is something which is coming out right now. Now, I can give you an AI from day one, but if the output doesn't make any sense to you, while it comes to business and trying to figure out what the opportunity out there is, I think that agility has now started coming up. And pandemic has brought in very clearly in terms of supply chain, in terms of thought process, in terms of what the customer requires, in terms of personalization, and social listening has become so loud that it's deafening everything around it, right? So that's something which the collaborative nature of business has now started bringing into. That's my experience in the last 18 months.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anil. And I know you continue to reflect on both your earlier experience with the Tata Starbucks, and as you get into your new role. We'll probably try and get more from you in terms of your experiences across both these sectors. Let me switch to Ashok. Ashok Raj, would you like to share in terms of how you see customer expectations, how they have been influenced? Go for it, Ashok.
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. And it's always good to go last. You can collate everyone and bring up the best out of it. So good that way. And so this pandemic in particular, and as Nicole was pointing out, the whole omni-channel was kind of diluted. You see, it was an extension of whatever that was available today, and nothing was moving, and all the AIs can't work really because you don't have a past, you don't have a history to even find a pattern on how you're going to get into a new business model, right? So what we started doing is, as Anil pointed out, it was a collaborative economy, which is by and large now, and how this disruptive channels can bring in better efficiency or better models or customer experience. Because till pandemic, customer experience is all about UI. There will be a set of UI, UX designers who sit and say, oh, this is an experience, the minimum you touch, minimum you feel. But now it's an era where we are entering, there is no touch at all. Touch is prohibited, you see. So how do we even get into that model where you don't touch? So the boundaries set were very clear. Number one is giving an experience where safety is being taken care when it is going to be the brick and mortar store, or double down on the digital, and how effective is your the innovation is going to happen. So we kind of moved from an UI UX to a more of AR VR, augmented reality, become more of a supporting hand, which was kind of good to have, because we see a lot of retailers before COVID have that AR as a showcase, not really was used, but now AR, VR, everything become the prime movers of the business moving forward on how it's going to be there, So that's the areas that we started focusing on as a product company. The lessons learned, what we wanted to give us focus on those areas, which is going to really help the retailers. And that's how we started the journey.
Absolutely. Now, I think thanks, Ashok. Thanks for sharing that. Very relevant insights. I'm sure that many people in the audience will relate to some of the experiences you have shared. I must remind the panelists that we owe an answer to Nicole, some of the questions that you have raised at the start of the panel. And this is exactly what we are trying to also try and address in terms of how does IT, having a seat at the table. Definitely the digital footprint is increasing, and we see that with the pandemic. I've personally seen how CEOs are now saying, you don't have to beg for money anymore. Tell me, where do I put the money? How do I invest? How do I accelerate the whole digital transformation? So we're definitely seeing a very large shift that's taken place. So thank you for sharing your personal experiences and learnings. If I can now switch gears a little bit, I want to get a little more specific with in your areas in terms of how businesses and certain functions have been responding to this. I'll pick maybe Anil to start with you. I mean, you've had experiences both online, offline, especially with Lulu, and prior also. Now, one of the big cultural shifts that has happened, we spoke about culture. One of the big cultural shifts that's happened is around social distancing and other new norms that are going to continue to stay longer beyond even the pandemic and outlive many of us. So my question is around, and I'll probably run this through a couple of you, starting with Anil, is really how do we continue to communicate and engage with shoppers? How do we make sure, for a lack of a better word, how do we emulate offline brick and mortar experiences on an online channel? So maybe I'll start with you, Anil, and then I'll maybe ask one more person to reflect on it. Anil, if you're good.
Sure. So, Sadiq, to be very clear on how this pandemic has brought us together from an online and offline mode of it, is that while we over a period of time spoke about omni-channel and so on and so forth, and as Ashok rightly said, there's nothing called as an omni-channel per se. It is more now in the nature of it. We would look at it in a manner where this pandemic has given us one aspect, which is collaboration, and by which we have the virtue of which we can reach or we have reached to customers who are never our customers. They were more on a social media, social listening, and all of that was going on. With this social listening, we have now reaching out to customers who are never our customers, who never knew about it or was not very familiar with the brand and so on and so forth, or it was an aspirational aspect, right? So here is where the agility of the business internally and externally have come up. The data which was the oil and which is now has different names to itself, whatever we call it up, is giving us directions, suggestions towards making the right investments. And that's what the leadership also have seen in this current times, and that's where they are ready to put the money where we talk about it, right? My aspect or our experience so far has been so that the customer reach has gone high. One. Second, when you say personalization become a hyper personalization, you can abuse it as much as words you can put around it. Yep. But we have now reached to a segment which was never our focus area, right? And now we are trying to cater them with the help of AIs, MLs, ARs, and as Nicole said, all the Rs possible, and trying to make sure that they stay with us. They stay with us, and again going back to Venki, I may support you on that, but Mark may take us off chart by saying that Facebook is no more the place to be. It's more Instagrams and others of the media is where the focus have gone into. Making sure that Anil, when he opens his Instagram, knows precisely what he's looked at, and not making too much of noise. See, we go to an extent saying that it becomes a noise after some time. Sure. Let's not become a noise to the customer, right? There should be a cutoff on this noise, and we should know what level of customer experience should we put in. And the later part to it is the organization should have the same mindset. It's not that a particular team is driving that customer experience and the organization is in a different level of customer experience lookout. So that's what I would put it across during this pandemic and what we learned across this time.
Thanks, Anil. Thanks for sharing that. I'm tempted to ask you, Nicole. I mean, you also run online and offline stores and so on. So anything that you want to add to what Anil just mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the biggest challenges as a retailer is to have your inventory at the right time where the consumer wants to purchase it. So I think this drive that we currently have towards an omnichannel, and when I speak about omnichannel, I don't speak only about the marketing omnichannel, but I'm actually speaking about a supply chain fully integrated omnichannel with all the intelligence that you would need to have in theory in order to operate it, which I think most companies at this stage don't have, right? I think this is the drive we're seeing. I have to hold a lot of inventory to make sure when my consumer goes in the store, actually the item is there. And then to be able to replenish that from any place in the world, I think that's one of the key learnings that we have. And I think that's where we stand at the moment as retailers, where we need to try to figure out how to do that to improve the consumer experience. So if it's not online available, or to have one joint inventory view, that we're able to supply the demand from wherever we are in the world, and also link in with the service providers to deliver the product quickly wherever.
Absolutely, yeah. Nicole, very well said. And in terms of sharing on top of what Anil said, but while I have you on this, I do want to very quickly pick your thoughts on, personally, I saw this shift from going from a just-in-time inventory management to a just-in-case, supply chain management, where people were stocking up just without that bit of uncertainty.
Yes.
Now, and clearly there was the shift to a dynamic and an agile supply chain planning. So,
yes.
Okay, the question to you is, how is supply chain transforming itself? Because this is going to become the new norm.
It is, and I think it's just the classical transformation from big batch to lean, right? I think, and lean only works if your supply chain is really running smoothly. So the moment you close a border, or the moment there is no ship or no air freight space available, right? Then suddenly you realize that, you know, if you have all your suppliers in one particular country, it's not going to work anymore. So it's about really taking the right mix of fragmenting your supply chain across the globe so that you're able to shift your supply chain and source from different corners in the world and also supply in those markets. But then again, you know, why do you buffer? You buffer because there is a demand that might happen and you don't have the visibility on where your inventory is. You don't have the visibility on who could ship from where, how fast into the demand. And that is the real problem. The problem is the absence of data transparency, which currently everybody has, right? If I tell you tomorrow, I need this item delivered to Kochi, please, this SKU, you are not able to tell me within 5 minutes that you have this item sitting in maybe some warehouse in Canada, and who is the right service provider to ship it and express there within 24 hours. And I think that's the matter, right? We would need all that data transparently available in order to avoid having those buffer stocks and tied down capital.
Absolutely. And you touched upon, thanks, Nicole, you touched upon something that's at the core of everything, which is all around data. And you know, I used to love saying data is the new oil, but with the way oil has been behaving these days, I don't know whether I want to say that again. But I want to thanks, Nicole, for the thought. I'm going to shift to maybe get some insights from Venki and Ashok in terms of, you know, consumer companies, retail companies must invest in data, technology, systems, and etc. so on to deliver the kind of exceptional consumer experiences. And it doesn't matter. It's about moving products from one place to another. It could be something that Anil talked about. Where are you both seeing, and you know, I'll pass it to the two of you and take it in any order. Where are you seeing companies, whether it's collaborating with startups or investments, native investments, where are you seeing companies go after these technologies to make sure they are winning in the marketplace for the future? I could start with Venki, you, and then maybe touch upon Ashok, your thoughts, either way.
Okay. So Sadik, CX is going to be a powerful catalyst for change as we speak about it, right? So I'll give you a small story internally what we did. As an organization, we've been on the digital transformation and the blueprint is now complete. We worked on it for the last 2 years. What we did was we said, customer experience is going to be the centerpiece of our strategy. And we as an organization have very diverse businesses. We are across 35 companies, so many industry segments. So it's a little challenging, but we said consumer experience is the centerpiece, right? And we actually got the CX, the CEO, the CFO, and all of them to take a stake in the CX story. You know, that's the only way it works. So the moment there is a stake, there is a clear participation, and it's not an IT story any longer. It's not while technology is an enabler and all of that, it's not an IT story, and Anil touched upon it. It's really the consumer who walks in through the door. But having said all of that, so what we did was we actually redefined our IT operating model. We redefined our IT operating model and kept the business and consumer at the focus of it. We said, what does the consumer need? Does the consumer need proactive IT? Do they need reactive IT? Do they need keep the lights on IT? And it could be different story for any of us. But clearly, a lot of things have changed in the last 1 year. From all of us having to get Teams and Zoom up and running in 3 hours to making sure we have enough bandwidth and making sure it's no longer I can't hear you, I can't see you types to to all of that. We've come a long way. But the other side to it is, Sadik, even as we speak, I think a lot of organizations, and this is probably not the right thing, a lot of organizations are still working on outdated technologies. They're still running their old loyalty programs.
Great example.
Yeah. And my point is the consumer walking in through the door is more educated, smarter, more demanding, has very reasonable answers to all your questions. So treat him differently. Treat him like an adult. Treat him like a mature individual walking in through your door who knows what he wants. When he walks in, don't tell him, tell us what you want, and I know your size is 42. No, tell him that I know these are the purchases you made in the last 6 months,
Absolutely.
and based on what it is, and I think I know your purchase patterns. I think, going forward, you should be investing in a cuffling shirt and not a normal shirt, or you should be investing in cotton and not polyester, because the blah blah blah. My point is, organizations are not doing that. So if you ask me in a very radical way, I would say burn the house down. Don't build on something that you've been doing, because I understand you've invested a lot, but frankly, spending more time and effort on it is putting good money behind bad money. You've done it. It served your purpose. It no longer works for you to know your bus is on time. You need to know how many seater. Is there place on the bus for me? Is my bus running late? Let's get to real time. It's no longer about, it's okay for 6 smart MBA kids working on a strategy document, giving it to you after 1 week and competition has already launched it. You need real time. So if you're CEO, or if Nicole logs into her computer at this point of time, she wants to know, she has a right to know who is the consumer in my store and what is the transaction happening currently as I speak. Have I moved products, or am I actually stocking dead stuff in my shelves? So it's time to move away from independent organization emotions to the consumer emotions. And I think that's where we need to get in, bring the experience, get data scientists to work on consumer behavior, put that at the center of your technology. Of course, there is AI, there is all the R's, like she mentioned, there is, process automation, but really get the consumer to be your story. And if you get that right, you will be fine and you will be smiling. Don't work on old, outdated technology. And I've been saying this, you don't have to be state of the art, but at least be relevant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, nobody has gone wrong. No, very well said, Venki. And nobody has really gone wrong putting consumer or customer at the center.
Exactly.
I think you can never get it wrong.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
No, absolutely. And any organization I've seen, or organizations that have kept that as the core mantra, Venki, you and I go back to Procter & Gamble days where consumer, it was all about the consumer customer experience. So, and that has never changed. And
yes.
it is only, if at all anything, it's only strengthened now.
Correct.
Ashok, I do want to hear your thoughts on, where companies should be investing. And more importantly, I think even this is a great opportunity for us to answer the question about where can IT help make lives easier for the business. Maybe you can take that, Ashok. You have I'm sure you have a lot of things to say on that.
Thank you, Sadik. It becomes more of my platform, being a product-based company. And,
Absolutely.
And I just love Venki, because burn the house, that's exactly what people do. I mean, that's how agile people have to be in taking decisions, For example, every CXO, CIOs, and the CEOs are very busy in reorchestrating the whole business models. Business models are not the same. Same time, there is also someone called as a CFO. Their core purpose is to modify the cost model. Cost model cannot elevate. So we actually categorize into 2 segments, the front end and the back end. The front end is what the consumers are experiencing. Whatever that we are talking now, it's all about how the consumer experiences. That's the front end. And as Venki rightly pointed out, we need to make sure that we give the consumer the insights for having a better experience. Not that we prolong giving much things, like we hit the nail exactly on what their preference is, how they like it. And all the state-of-the-art technologies are much needed over there. And we have enough of off-the-shelf products now available for any of the front end that you are looking out, which will enable or support the digital marketing and the digital medias like Google and other stuff. In fact, Instagram and Facebook, if they are doing business for you directly, Google is one which is doing almost 60 or 70% of the household indirectly, because anyone searches, it ends up with you. When you're going to pay for the digital marketing, that's going to end up, which is going to be a large one for you. So this is the front end. But backend is quite interesting because that's when the real supply chain and all the fulcrums were running together, which was totally disrupted because of this pandemic. Like as Nicole mentioned, it's there in Canada, but how do I even move it? We are all collaborating. Yes, the collaboration is happening very, very evidently, but the move to happen, the logistics to happen is not literally available at our choice. It's the choice of the governments which were deciding to move from one to another. So it was more of in-house or within the country, how effectively can we move, and outside of the country, what are that we are focusing on. That's where what we developed is the demand actually changed to a no coding solutions. People were looking of, we don't want solutions which you come and say, oh, we are going to take 3 months time. No, that's not what we were looking at.
Absolutely.
We want some solutions which absolutely requires no code. We pick up, configure, roll it out. So that's what we were doing. And we enabled all our supply chain solutions to make sure that it all fits to exact way it's going to work. One classic example before I move on is we also developed AI engines to figure out like how the weather is figuring out. We figured out where the lockdown is effective. What is the kind of movements that are happening today? Is it even advisable for me to move the cargo? That's the pattern and the AI engine that we developed recently and which is up and running for a retailer. So that's the kind of things people are looking at.
Wonderful. And I think, thanks, Ashok. That's a little bit of insight into what some of the technologies and how IT can also provide some solutions to the questions that is being asked in this panel. I think that's very interesting to hear that. We can go on all day, guys, because this is such an important, interesting topic. It touches the core for all of the work that we are doing. And it's very real. It's very real. We live it every day. But given the time, I just have a few more minutes to bring this to a close. But I would like to do it by a quick rapid fire round, and would like to ask each one of you. And I'm going to give you the choice of anybody can go first. I'm not going to pick a name this time. Really, what is it that you are personally looking forward to the second half, if I may, for this year, 21 and 22 and beyond, as we see the effects of pandemic, markets are coming back, bouncing back, countries are better controlling the pandemic. I want to hear from each one of you. What is the one thing that you're looking forward to as we move from here? So I could start in any order. Who would like to go first?
Okay, I will go first.
Yeah, go for it.
So sorry, guys. Yeah. Crystal ball time, is it, Sadiq?
Yes, in some extent.
So I think, two things. One, break down the walls between brick and mortar and digital, make the experience seamless. So if I'm shopping for, Nicole is a great example, shopping for Swarovski online, as opposed to walking into the store, make that experience seamless for me as a customer or as a consumer. Let me not get or have a different experience. Let me have the same exciting experience that I get on any channel of yours. So that's one. And that obviously requires a lot of investment. And two, I feel CEOs will start investing in automation to reduce cost, win short-term gains in low growth markets, and all of that will happen. So I genuinely believe, and that's very nicely you said that earlier, Sadiq, is it's no longer about do you have the money? The idea is where do you want me to put the money to give me benefit? So I think these two will happen for sure. And third and last, and I'm going to sign off with this, treat the consumer as real. He's here to stay. He's going to drive your growth. He's going to drive your profits. He's the reason for your job, right? Absolutely. So drive it, treat him seriously and handle him. And he will give you more benefits that you can imagine.
Thanks, Venki. Very well said. Nicole, you'd like to go next?
Yes, so I mean, less crystal ball, but like a dream wish. So if I could have anything happening for me over the next 1 or 2 years, it's really a bigger dive into predictive analytics as for demand planning and into the shop, including the inventory management. So for me, I think this would be really a great relief if I would be able really to supply in the moment when the demand happens, and of course also use that as a changeover for the omni-channel. So yes, we are online, yes, we are there offline in the brick and mortar environment, and we're trying to create a seamless omni-channel experience, right? But at the same time, I also need the machine in the background, the logistics, the warehousing running also seamlessly and on the same data in order to provide that experience. So if I could have anything on my wish list, that would be it.
Wonderful. You will be a great business partner to have, Nicole. Anil, you'd like to go next?
Yes, thanks, Radik. From the crystal balls again, three things which majorly will drive. One would be how do you manage the culture, the digitalization culture or the customer experience culture? How do you grow internally in an organization? Two, how much can I burn down? If I'd have to take words from Venki, how much do I burn down? The third would be how agile can I become? And what are the levers where agility can be brought in without too much disruptions into the current business scenarios? But third, last but not the least, but yes, for sure, how do you empower your employees, who's your brand ambassadors, to make sure that the customer experience is delivered and not by an offline mode of it? As Venki said, it should be more real time. So how do you empower them with a real-time data is something which we will be working around.
Thanks, Anil. Really reflects and great insight. Ashok?
Yeah. Yeah, from my side, yes. So this pandemic, now the business is catching up really fast. Everywhere people are out in the market, and they really wanted to feel that air of freedom. I can say that. But there is a distinct difference between Asian markets and non-Asian markets, where Asia is full of manpower. There is surplus manpower everywhere. And the word automation really doesn't work out here because it's going to, again, kill the economy. So as an IT solution provider or IT product provider, we clearly demark the solutions to say that how effective can our solutions still be with having people without people, like automating things. Yes, it's nice, but how safe it can be without people with people. So that's how we are started building the products. And yes, there is a lot of endorsement and acknowledgement. And the pattern, what we see is really encouraging in the sense like the CIOs are able to decide faster. The cycle is not 3 months to 6 months anymore. It is much across the table that is happening, which is a welcome sign. And I hope it continues and all these products can prove that business can improve, and we see a better 2021.
Thanks, Ashok, for the thought. And in fact, we are just out of time. But this has been an amazing conversation, guys, because this is the key to how we are going to come out of the pandemic more successfully. And I really want to thank each one of you for your insights, sharing your learnings, your experiences. Definitely, I'm sure all of us in the panel and the audience have enjoyed listening to this conversation. And probably they've learned a couple of things in terms of what they can expect going forward from a customer expectation or experience, and really making this a competitive advantage to each one of them to win coming out of this pandemic. So once again, thank you all so much for your participation. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sadiq.
Right.
Awesome.
Pleasure.